Mezcal makes me chatty. Recording live in the Lucky Number 7 Lounge, this is Dine, Drink, Vegas, the podcast by and for everybody stuck at home, wishing they were in the land of neon lights and bad decisions. I am your host, John, also known as the Baller on a Budget, and you have stumbled across episode 84, where we're going to bring you some tasty booze, some Vegas news, and for the first time in a while, a feature story where we break down 4 of the all-inclusive Vegas packages that are available to tourists this summer. Of course, before we can do any of that amazing content, we have to make an introduction. We have to bring in the founder of Dine, Drink, Travel, and Dine, Drink, Vegas. Yes, of course, I'm speaking of the high roller, formerly of the High Plains, the leader in the luxury lounge, the king of comps, the Alabama slammer, the man who is always waiting on that limo to take him to his next luxurious Las Vegas destination. I can only mean the one and only Bill. Good evening, Bill. Can we talk about booze in Vegas and not the stuff we were talking about pre-show?
What's the matter with what we were talking about pre-show, John?
Because you were describing medical things that I realize are germane and ordinary for men of our age, but I don't want to think about it. I want to think about Vegas.
I mean, okay, just listeners, there may be a little Easter egg at the end of the show. Go on, John.
Yeah, it's a chocolate-covered one, too. All right, so this week, we thought we'd do something a little bit different. Last week's cocktail was delicious and delightful, but it required Bill to do more work than he normally does. And we know that Bill is a whiskey on the rocks or an old-fashioned drinker. So we're going to return to the old-fashioned with a twist. It's the no whiskey old-fashioned showdown. We've each made an old-fashioned. Neither of us used whiskey as our spirit. Bill, what did you build and how's it treating you?
So I used, and I actually, are you sitting down, John? Because I'm going to make a big disclosure about something I've never ever done before on this show. I poured a double.
No.
Yeah, I know. It's weird, right? So I poured a double of Florida Cognac 18-year-old. Listeners, for those of you who've been with us for a while, thank you so much. You've already heard this story. And I apologize for those of you who are new to the channel or the podcast, rather. Welcome. We're glad you're here. We hope you will like and subscribe. That would really help us a lot. But I, 20 years ago, spent a couple of weeks in Nicaragua, and during that time had an inappropriately large amount of Florida Cognac rum. I find it delicious. I know John finds it delicious.
Mm-hmm.
And their 18-year-old is not their super premium version. That's the 25-year-old, which I am unwilling to put anything into. But the Florida Cognac is a phenomenal rum. And I guess that's different than the whiskey approach I take. Usually when I'm building a whiskey-based old-fashioned, I use a more low to mid-shelf spirit because I'm mixing other things here. So one, it was rum, but two, it was a mid to high shelf, not a high shelf, but a top of the middle shelf rum. Do we want to go step by step here, John, or do you want me to tell them about my whole drink?
What did you put in with the Florida Cognac? What was your sweetener? What bitters? Did you add any modifiers? And do you have a garnish?
I did it otherwise exactly like I would have done if I was making this with bourbon or perchance rye or something like that. And my sweetener was a large brown sugar cube. Actually, it was 3 very small ones that may have amounted to like 1.5 brown sugar cubes. But that's my standard sweetener because what I wanted to do was make a comparison. So I otherwise built the drink exactly the same. I used both orange bitters and Angostura bitters. I favored the orange bitters, but I always do. There wasn't what you would call a lot of bitters in here, but there was what any bartender would call a lot of bitters. Yeah. Nothing else, right? Smash the sugar cubes. For garnish, I put in an orange peel. I kind of waved it over the top to get some orange essence on the edge. And John, it is mostly fantastic. I love it. And I mean, we've talked about this before. I've done it some when we're off the air. I do like it. I think I still prefer the whiskey ones, but this is great and something I need to keep in the rotation. I think there are a couple of challenges. One, I don't want to put an 18-year-old age spirit in here all the time because that's more money than I want to pay for my cocktail. right?
Yeah.
Like as a one-off for the podcast, that's fine, but I'm not drinking 2 of these a night. Like that gets expensive in a hurry. The other thing is that rum is fundamentally a sweet product, and the 18-year-old rum is a particularly sweet and smooth product. So there's not a lot of bite to it, and there is a whole lot of sweetness just underlying in the rum. And I'm not sure that is my very favorite part. Now there's some lovely spice notes to it, and by spice I don't mean like the jalapenos from a Mexican food joint, like your typical rum based spices. It is great. I would absolutely do it again. If I was going to do it very often, I think I would use, I don't know, maybe their 12-year-old rum or something like that. Because I don't want to go to the 4-year stuff. I think I would go to the 12-year-old rum and Florida Cognac rum instead. I think I will always prefer the bourbon-based ones, but I like this very much.
So I will say, if you want a little more alcohol bite to a rum old fashioned, lead with an aged rum. Appleton Estates 8 is great. Florida Cognac 12 or 18 are both good options. But say do 3/4 of that and 1/4 of a dark high proof rum, maybe something like Hamilton Estates 151. And then you'll get a little oomph of little horsepower, little bit of proof in there, but still get the smooth character. So yeah, Bill, I like a good rum old fashioned. I've been known to do that. It's not what I did tonight, but I like rum.
So before we move on to your drink, John, because I mean, this was fundamentally your idea, and rum is quite frequently your main squeeze. What if you were going to, and I don't want to go through the whole list here because this isn't your drink, but if you were going to make a rum old fashioned, which of those rums you just mentioned would you start with? Like you're making the drink now.
It depends on what I've got on hand. Honestly,
Okay.
when I do a rum old fashioned, what I normally go for is Plantaray OFTD. Which is a blend of rums. It comes in at, I want to say, something like 140 proof, something like that. So not a 151, but a very assertive rum. I'll do that with Angostura bitters, Angostura orange bitters, and Bitterman's Tiki bitters. Very little sugar or sugar-free simple syrup in my case, because I got the Beatus. And then usually I will garnish with a lime wedge because I just like lime and rum. But I make rum old fashions probably 2-3 times a month. And it just kind of depends on what I grab out of the cabinet.
Okay, fair enough. Well, tell us about your drink, John, because I can see the red notes, but our listeners can't, and I am intrigued.
So I was really in the mood for a smoky scotch, but I'm the one that said we were going to do old fashions without doing whiskey. So I was craving the smoke, so I grabbed Lost Explorer Mezcal. I used sugar-free simple syrup, and I used 3 bitters in here, Angostura Orange, and strong water chocolate cacao. I wound up with a double 2 because I accidentally over poured my simple syrup. I meant to just get a bar spoon and the dog barked, and I wound up with way more than that. I don't like my old fashions very sweet at all. So I had to add more bitters and spirit until and I don't know what the final measurements were, but I wanted to balance the sweetness so it wasn't cloying. And my garnish were 3 Luxardo maraschino cherries. And I got to say, it really gets as close to scotch as you're going to get with mezcal. The smoky character's there. And anytime you have mezcal, chocolate bitters just does beautiful things to it.
So, John, what are the requirements for a drink to be considered an old fashioned? Because it's clearly not having whiskey in it, and it's clearly not a particular kind of bitter. So, what are the requirements to call your drink an old fashioned?
A distilled spirit of your choice, the bitters of your choice, sweetener to taste, and if you wanted a garnish, and you can add other things. One of the things I will sometimes do when I get a bottle of bitters that I want to understand how that bitters affects cocktails, I will make a vodka old fashioned because the vodka brings nothing to the party. I will use a very neutral sweetener, just either regular simple syrup or sugar-free simple syrup. And then I will use a heavy heavy hand with those bitters, because when you do that, you really get to the essence of what that bitters is. And then you can figure out what other kind of cocktails you want to make with it, whatever other kind of spirits you want to mix with it. I don't recommend the vodka old fashioned is a great cocktail, but it really will tell you what a bottle of bitters is all about.
All right. You've got me sold on this, John. Listeners, if you don't know, most episodes John calls the drink of the day. Some days I do. Some days we collaborate. But John's a better bartender than I am, so he quite frequently calls the drink. And John, I like this. This is one of my favorite ones you've done in a while.
Well, I know how much you love an old fashioned, and I feel like after I torture you with several more complicated cocktails with hard to get ingredients for weeks in a row, it's time to let you breathe and either do a whiskey tasting or get back to an old fashioned, because I don't want to torture my friend Bill all the time, just most of the time.
Yeah, that's what adds variety. Well, John, what's going on in the Las Vegas news?
Scott of Auto Vegas shared images of the Vinyl Room, the remodeled foundation room at the top of the Mandalay Bay, which is run by the House of Blues Hospitality Group. It will reopen in July, according to what Scott has heard. And Bill, I put one of the pictures on the run sheet of the interior. It still has those phenomenal views from the foundation room. Are you excited to have a vinyl record themed cocktail bar with an amazing view?
So, sort of. Listeners, and we'll talk about this a little bit more at the end of the podcast, but we also run a couple of YouTube channels. One of those is called Dine, Drink Vegas, where we review things like specific, restaurants, bars, hotel rooms, and a lot of that content is moving to the other channel, Dine, Drink Travel. But on Dine, Drink Vegas right now, we have a video of the old foundation room. Now, obviously, that video is already out of date because of the remodel. But if you look at it, what you'll see on there is some of the really great views. Like, it's just stunningly beautiful views from up there. You'll also see kind of a dumpy interior with food that I think I described as mostly pretty okay, right? So you have always gone up there for just those stunning views of Las Vegas and some overpriced cocktails because it's a Las Vegas Strip and that's what you get. Those things won't have gone away unless this is the one bar in Vegas that doesn't serve booze or decided to charge reasonable prices for it. So sure, I absolutely intend to go back up there. I want to see what the new decor is like. Like the particular decor they've chosen, whatever. I think just any sort of refresh would be good. But yeah, this is absolutely a space I want to check out. John, have you ever actually been up to that space?
I have not. I've been to the one over at the Skyfall Lounge, but not the foundation room. It is on my bucket list. I am a vinyl record junkie. I like quirky old records, so I'm excited about this. I'll enjoy looking at the vinyl records they have on display as much as I'll enjoy the view on the balcony. So this does excite me. I hope the food gets an upgrade too. I hear you on that. Some of these resorts in their bars don't exactly serve stellar food. They're getting you for the $25 cocktail and the amazing view. But yeah, I want to check this out. I am excited.
So the foundation room actually had a space that was a full-on restaurant too.
Right.
So I'm assuming this well. So it wasn't just bar food.
Yeah, it looks more like a lounge area with some tables than anything, but I only pulled one of the pictures Scott posted. So yeah, but I mean, it's not going to be the best possible dining experience in that building.
Fair. Well, continuing our long tradition with having our first couple of stories be from the same source, Scott also shared that the Westgate is bringing Caesars Sports Betting in to run their legendary Superbook Sportsbook, which is a sprawling sports gambling and watching space that's inspired many competitors in Vegas and beyond. So, John, when was the last time you've even been in the Westgate?
I've never been in the Westgate. You know, that used to be the Vegas Hilton. I always wanted to go when they had Star Trek, the experience there, because I'm a nerd, never had the money to go. And I went through my religious goody two-shoes phase where I would not go to someplace like Las Vegas. They sin there. So I've never been to the Westgate. I would like to go in there. I would even contemplate to stay there. It's just so far from everything else I like.
So I don't know if I've told you this story yet, John, and you made a reference to when the Star Trek experience was there. I went into the building when it still was the Hilton and had the Star Trek experience. But at work this fall, I had a group of subordinate coworkers who were talking about whatever the meeting was about that day. And somebody made a reference to Star Trek and somebody made a reference to Star Wars. And then one member of the group said, wait, aren't those the same thing? And then I may have lost focus, as did most of the rest of the class. So well played, ma'am. You got us off track in that meeting.
She did a good job. Oh, these cherries are very good. Oh, it's my turn to read. I shouldn't be eating a cherry.
Yeah, do you?
Scott also shared a rendering of the planned high-limit room at the Plaza set to open this summer. Bill, you and I both like gambling at the Plaza. Do you feel like it needed a high-limit slots room? Is this something that you're interested in?
So is it just high-limit slots, or is it also high-limit table games?
So based on the rendering, I do think it's a slot space. I don't know that there's going to be tables in there. If there are, based on what it looked like in the image, there couldn't be very many. They do have some high limit tables that they put out there in the non-smoking room that they're doing the video feed on the weekends. I don't know if you've watched any of that on YouTube. It is kind of fascinating just to watch people gamble. But I think the main aim here is slots. And that's increasingly true with most of the high limit rooms around Vegas, especially downtown.
All right, fair. So no, it doesn't have a lot of interest because it's mostly just slots. If they put table games or some reasonable simulacrum thereof in, sure, I go do it under the assumption that the cocktail service is reasonably responsive. And it's the Plaza. I'm still not expecting high-end whiskey from the table service, but at least something good enough that it didn't come straight out of the bar gun and they know what the name of the product is. That's my standard. Do you know the name of the whiskey you're about to bring me?
That's fair.
Yeah. Well, in news which is not from Scott, Chris Holmes reports that Soul Belly's new location is going to be on the Miracle Mile food court, which was set to open on Monday the 20th. So 2 days ago as we record this, but is now going to open on Friday the 24th. So essentially the day this episode drops, and that is due to permitting delays. John, you've been up and down. You've been to the Miracle Mile food court several times, right?
So, yeah, I mean, my wife and I, we go into Miracle Mile all the time. The last trip my wife and I took last summer, over Christmas, excuse me, there were some of the venues open. We did try the pizza place. The pizza place stunk. Just skip it. It was not good. It is the local mall, Sbarro in your area has better pizza. Just don't. But I do like the overall vibe of the food court, and I generally don't do barbecue in Vegas. But, if I was in there, I'd give their pulled pork or burn-ins a shot.
All right. So that's not going to make me go out of my way to go to the Miracle Mile food court. But sure, I would also give it a shot if I was going through there.
Yeah, decent place for a quick lunch. Las Vegas locally shared that the Las Vegas Aviators will rebrand to the Las Vegas Villains for one night this month, particularly Saturday, April 25th, which may be, before some of our listeners get around to this episode. Bill, do you like it when minor league baseball teams switch up their name for a night or two?
I know I shouldn't because I'm a fairly big baseball purist, but I actually kind of do. I think it adds something to the entertainment value. Like your hometown team has changed its name to the Chanclas a few times, which I think is just...
The Matamoscos. You're thinking of El Paso. That's the Chanclas.
I'm pretty sure, and I knew you were the Matamoscos for a while.
Oh, are we the Chanclas now?
I think you must have been. I've got a Chanclas gear, and I haven't been to El Paso in a while.
Oh, I need a Chanclas jersey.
Yeah, and if I'm wrong, just have another drink. You'll be fine.
When you say Chancla, I have to say, Mrs. Hernandez, it's been 40 years. I'm still sorry for what we did. Please don't hit me again.
If Mrs. Hernandez hits you, I just assume it's still your fault.
Oh, it was. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And she also, I don't know her from a hole in the ground. I am confident that she also hit her own progeny with the chancla.
So I may have to explain this for our other white listeners who may not know what it's like. When you are the white child who grows up in a mostly Hispanic neighborhood, one of the things you find out, at least in the time period that I was growing up is that the Hispanic
A long
community...
time ago, listeners.
Yeah.
A long
time ago. They believe in communal discipline. And just because you're not their child doesn't mean you won't catch that chocolate too. And we referred to Mrs. Hernandez as the chocolate ninja because she could kick her chocolate in the air.
A flip-flop.
We
should also explain that a chocolate is a flip-flop.
A flip-flop. She could grab it midair, kick it off her feet, grab it midair, never break stride, and commits to whooping our butts. So she was very efficient. Other mothers in the neighborhood actually had to stop and bend over. And if you weren't their child, that gave you a chance to make a break for daylight. You could get out of there. Their kid was screwed, but you could flee. But not in the Hernandez household. You were not getting away from justice.
Yeah, you know what? To the core point here, I do appreciate the name changes. And my local minor league team, I don't think I've ever seen do a name change.
Well, how can you improve on being the Biscuits?
For one thing, by having some biscuits that aren't terrible. So listeners, my local minor league team is called the Biscuits. They sell biscuits in the stadium. They cost like $8. They've got some sort of meat in them. Fine, it's ballpark prices. The problem is that they are objectively terrible biscuits, and it is Alabama. There are people in this town who know how to make biscuits. Like, just go to Jack's and like buy a couple hundred of a local fast food place. Get a couple hundred of their biscuits. It'll be fine. Hire somebody's grandma. Give her $40 or $50 and a big bag of flour. It'll be fine. How are you going to call yourself the Biscuits and not serve a half-decent biscuit? You had one job, and you failed.
Yeah, that is pretty depressing. That is pretty sad.
It is not good. In other news, before I go off on baseball things which piss me off about baseball, Las Vegas locally also shared that for Earth Day, 200,000 ladybugs have been released on North Street, mostly to keep...
On the North Strip. Sorry, typo. My bad.
Yeah, no, fair.
My bad.
Also my bad. It's been a week for all of us. On the North Strip, mostly to keep other harmful pest populations down. While ladybugs deter many critters, they unfortunately are ineffective at eliminating, what is this word? Pickle bucket drummers who annoy us. Oh, yeah. No, pickle bucket drummers who annoy us and ask for money. They're not making that dude go away.
He's got to go away. It is the thing, like, I'm a downtown person. It is the thing that will drive me off Fremont Street is some clown beating on a pickle bucket with no rhythm. None. And then having the audacity to look me in the eye and ask for a tip. No.
So, but if they're good, I actually enjoy the pickle bucket drummer. And I've got the capacity to keep walking if they're not.
Okay, yeah. So there's like 1% that are good, and then there's the 40% of the time that you're drunk when you walk by. So we're up to 41%.
Sure.
The rest of the time, it's garbage.
It's a little rough.
All right. Las Vegas Weekly reports that the Nevada Cannabis Compliance Board is launching two new initiatives. One is a cataloging project to list the 50,000 plus cannabis-containing products sold in the state. I need a minute. 50,000. I am a square. I would have thought there were like 5. I had no idea there were 50,000. And a campaign to educate the public on the dangers of driving while impaired. We take this as an opportunity to remind listeners, however you choose to get your Vegas on, please be safe out there. And if you're consuming numbers 1 through 50,000, get an Uber, okay? Don't get on the road.
So, John, that's not a life choice I make. But it would assume that if you're consuming numbers 1 through 50,000, you're dead way before you get to 50,000, right?
Well, by the time you get to number 4, you're not actually dead, but you're staring at the sky and asking the guy next to you, bruh, are we dead? And that'll pass about 4 hours. So
I have learned something new tonight, and I thank you very much.
I would say that like President Clinton, I can't say I'm unexperienced, but I didn't inhale, and I'm going to stick by that. If it's good enough for Bill, it's good enough for me.
In a story, John, which talks about why I don't usually go to shows in Las Vegas, Vegas Publicity reports that America's Got Talent and Emmy-winning mentalist Oz Perlman will make his Vegas debut at the Wynn on May 2nd. So first, good for whoever this guy is. I'm glad he's going to make some money. And second, I'm not even a little bit interested. John, you?
No, I don't want to go see a mentalist. That is.
You need a therapist, not a mentalist. You need a therapist.
I need a full team of therapists, but yeah, a mentalist, that's not. Magician, sure. Mentalist and hypnotist, which are different things. I'll pass.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. But you know what, listeners, if that is your thing, that is the great thing about Vegas. They are here for whatever it is you're into. Enjoy the show. Drop us a note in the comments and let us know how it was.
I did hear the opening act is a guy in a wife beater beating up on a pickle bucket. So
no thanks.
Not the same level of entertainment.
Yeah. What else we have, John?
Oh, yeah. Vegas Publicity also notes that on the same day, Al Solito Posto in Trivoli Village invites guests to its annual Kentucky Derby party. And Bill, I am a former resident of the state of Kentucky. I got to ask, Bill, if you got to spend Derby Day in Vegas, would you rather be at a sports book or at some random Italian joint in Tivoli Village?
I want to be at the little horse racing machine at the plaza. That's where I want to be.
Oh, no, the one at the D.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, that Sigma Derby.
That would also be acceptable. And just so you know, John, my strategy for horse racing is to bet the trifecta on the least likely combination because I'm probably not winning anyway, but I want there to be the possibility of winning an obscene amount of money.
No, that's fair.
My plan.
If I'm in Vegas for the Kentucky Derby, I'm watching it at Yardbird.
Ooh, we haven't been there in years, and that's wrong.
I know. We're overdue.
Yeah, we absolutely are. Well, speaking of delicious places to eat, MGM announced the closure of the MGM Grand Buffet, another place that I have video of on Dine Drink Vegas, and which has very few views because nobody was going there, which is probably why it closed. That also means that only the Bellagio, Excalibur, and Cosmo's Wicked Spoon or rather, those three places are the only MGM property strip or buffets left on the Las Vegas Strip. So, yeah, John, do you, of those three, the Bellagio and the Wicked Spoon are both pretty solid competitors, and I don't know how the Excalibur is still open, but I'm not going there. Why do you think all these buffets are closing, man?
I think since the pandemic, just the interest in buffets has waned. I think there will always be a place for some buffets, but clearly there's not enough demand to keep sustaining them. And these properties would rather convert them to food halls or other things that they think are advantageous. I'm not the world's biggest buffet person. I used to be obscenely, morbidly obese. I'm now just regular garden variety fat. Not going to buffets helps me not return to my former frightening size. I was the kind of fat people wouldn't get on the elevator with. So for that reason, I'm not a big buffet guy because I'm not a big guy anymore.
Huh. So fair. I enjoy buffets because I enjoy the ease and the convenience. I realize there's a part of that you can replicate at food courts. I don't know. I'm still a big buffet fan. I wish there were more. I will say, I went to the MGM Grand Buffet, once to do the video. I didn't particularly enjoy my meal. I never went back. I'm kind of surprised it took this long to close because there wasn't anything there to draw me back.
I do think buffets have a responsibility. If you're going to run a buffet, it can't just be a bigger version of the Golden Corral in terms of food quality.
Which this very much was.
I think Wicked Spoon has some unusual things on the menu. It's well executed, and the price is reasonable by Vegas Strip standards at nice places. The Buck and All and the Wynn are outrageously expensive, but dear God, they do an amazing job with their food. I think if you're going to bring the buffet back, the buffets have got to offer some really unique things you can't get other places, and you have to execute top notch. because you're not going to run the $10 buffet anymore. And I can't see dropping $50 on a mediocre buffet, which is what MGM and Excalibur are, when I can go into a food court and order from 3 different places for roughly the same amount of money and get, sure, less quantity, but better executed food and still get a variety.
You know what? I see your logic, and that is, I think, a really good point.
Well, let's jump into our main topic tonight. So we found 4 all-inclusive packages. We're going to break them down, and then we're going to have a discussion. Which one would we pick with the opportunity to go to Vegas? What are the ones we think might be worth your time and your money? So Bill, why don't you start us off?
All right, cool. Although I do, when we get to the second one, I've got some stuff I want to say about it.
Well, let's reverse and I'll go first.
All right, cool. Fair. Rock and roll.
So contestant number 1 is the Plaza. The Plaza is the first place that we're aware of to offer this. They did this last summer. They're now offering this in the summer months. So what you get is waived resort fees, early check-in, bottomless drinks at 2 of their bars. Now that's draft beer, boxed wine, and well drinks, but still. Vouchers for breakfast and dinner at select dining venues on property, discounts at Oscar Steakhouse, and a 25% discount on poolside drinks. And all that starts at $104 per guest per night, depending on how busy the dates are and what room class you pick.
And John, am I reading this correctly that it also involves early check-in?
Yes. Yeah. No resort fees and early check-in. Yes.
All right. No, fair. So I don't know that there's quite enough value there to make me think about or to make me do it, but there's enough there to make me think about it. For one thing, love gambling at the Plaza. I love being on Fremont. I love being on that end of Fremont, slightly off of it. I don't like staying there all that much, but it may just be because I had a pretty terrible room. But I hate resort fees, and I can pretend this is something different. I quite frequently arrive early and want to check in early, and if they honored that, that would be great. I'm not wild about well drinks, but I bet by about my 3rd one I care less. So,
well, and it's Evan Williams as the well bourbon. It's a decent bourbon.
Yeah, no, okay, and Evan Williams is fine, particularly once I'm like, hey, put in some simple syrup and some bitters in there, right? Like, So it's, not a quite probably enough of a draw, but enough to make me think about it. How about you, John?
No, yeah, I would jump on this. In fact, this would be what I would want to do with my wife this summer for our trip, except I have that iconic credit card. And we're going to have an episode on that later about whether or not, after a year in, whether it's worth getting the MGM iconic. But I have a resort credit to use up. So we're staying with MGM when we go in late June, early July. But if not for that, I think I would probably book this Plaza deal because the breakfast and lunch options in the building are pretty nice. I can do some damage hitting up that Omaha bar for the well drinks. That does not bother me. And I like the Plaza, Bill. What can I say? And your room, I wouldn't say your room was terrible. It was just dated. The layout was a little strange for a suite, but the carpet and the furniture was just dated. I think if they put in the hardwood floors and the modern furniture that they have in their luxe rooms, I think you would have loved that space.
Totally fair. And when they update, I would be happy to go back. So that is an entry level place, which I've said that before. And to be clear, there's a lot about the hotel I enjoy, but the second contestant is significantly more upscale. It's at Resorts World, but remember there are 3 hotels there, a Hilton, a Conrad, and a Crockford. And the Conrad, which is decidedly more upscale than the regular Hilton, is offering the Conrad Complete. Now, it is $150 per guest per night in addition to your room rate. And that makes it, if you've got 2 people in the room, that makes it 3 times as oh, wait, no, it doesn't. I misread it. So it's not that much more than the Plaza. It offers significantly more, though. They claim they're delivering $800 in value. And I'm going back and forth on this one, John. I don't like it. We talked before the show. You still like it more than I do. For me, it's a question of how many nights am I there. I don't think what they're offering is for 4 nights, but for a night or 2, I'd think about it. So
I
One of
think
the
it's a 2-night offer. I
okay,
believe
fair.
that's the restriction. It's got to be 2 nights, no more,
All
no
right.
less.
Okay, fair. And I did not read that, but I also may very well have simply missed it.
I'm
Um,
extrapolating from a Norma Yelly video. She
fair.
says jelly.
So,
Shouldn't it be yelly in Spanish? Anyway.
so one of the things they offer is private access to the Club 66 VIP lounge. I've never been in that VIP lounge, but again, on Dine Drink Vegas YouTube, I've got video of Club 66, and it is a gorgeous space. I'd love to see their VIP lounge, and included with that is daily continental breakfast and an evening social hour. So is it unlimited drinks? No, it's not. A little bit of free breakfast, because I'm not going to want a huge breakfast, is a good deal. And I bet I could get a free drink or two out of that evening social hour. The meals, though, for lunch and dinner are decidedly more upscale. So they've got a multi-course lunch, and I unfortunately just clicked away from the page where they listed the multi-course lunch. Give me just a second, John. I am back on the Conrad page. The multi-course lunch is at a selection of Viva by Ray Garcia, at Agave Bar and Grill, or at some place called Wally's. My guess is that's going to be better than the options that you've got over over on the Fremont Street experience.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
so sorry, John.
Over at Plaza, yes.
Yeah, it has been a week and words are hard. So I'm looking at the lunch menus. So Viva by Ray Garcia, and I'm not going to go through all 3 of these. They're pretty limited menus. You don't get anything they've got. But at Viva, you get an appetizer, either a taquito or a queso fundido. So melted cheese with stuff in it. For the entree, you get either a quesadilla or an enchilada, and for dessert, you get a churro or tres leches cake. So not a huge menu, not particularly fancy, enough stuff. Similar sorts of options at Agave. Wally's. Honestly, I go to Wally's for the lunch. And then they've got a few other places on here which weren't listed on the webpage. I'm actually glad I went through this. So fairly basic lunch options, but clearly better than you're going to get over at the Plaza. Now, the multi-course dinner is pretty upscale. It's at Kusanori, Fuhu, or Wally's. And let me go to the dinner page, because I'm curious to see, part of the value is what are they offering. So, Wally's is listing the same menu for lunch and dinner. Wait.
Yeah.
They simply did a bad job. Wally's has got 2 menus. So what is on the dinner menu? Either grilled octopus or artichoke hummus for an appetizer. For the entree, either filet mignon or a lamb loin. And for dessert, either profiteroles or chocolate fondant. I'd actually enjoy that meal. Now, it's not going to wind up being free because I'm going to order cocktails. But still, that's not bad. At Kusanori, you can choose 1 signature roll and then 3 essentially Japanese appetizers along with some chocolate nama cake. I think I go there. So is it the highest end dining options? It's not, but they're pretty good. Other things they've got are, they're calling it a dedicated poolside experience, which mostly sounds like BS. However, you do get into the pool 30 minutes early, and that can be huge.
Well, they do include some seating in that, which at some Vegas pools they charge for.
Right. Then complimentary entry to the nightclub and complimentary valet service. So I guess for me, the real value question, John, comes down to how much do I feel like eating at the restaurants? And if I've got to be there 2 nights, man, I'd have to be pretty excited about these specific meals. So, John, before the show, you were saying you're really excited about this. Walk me through your thought process.
Well, I think to do that, we really need to close out the other 2 offerings on the strip so I can make the argument of why I think that Resorts World is the baller on a budget move of the 3 options on the strip. So let's round that out and then circle back. Over at Caesars, you have the option of staying at either the Link, the Flamingo, or Harrah's. You get a standard room with resort fee and taxes included. Complimentary drinks at select floor bars. Again, it's going to be well drinks, basic stuff. 2 meals per day at certain restaurants, but it's going to be your lower end stuff. It's not going to be anything earth shattering. 2 high roller observation wheel tickets, which is actually pretty cool. Self-parking for 1 vehicle. If you drive in Vegas, I don't. And a discount on pool cabanas at the Link. Prices start at $200 per night for one guest, additional guest, $100 a night, up to 4 guests. So this is great if you have groups. But Bill, I want to be honest, like there's nothing I really want to eat in these 3 buildings. So the meals are sort of out right there. Like, have you ever when's the last time, like we've had the discussion about the steakhouse at Flamingo where you had to watch, Maud from Boise waddle her way past the pool. And no offense to big ladies, you do you, wear that bikini to the pool. But I don't want an open air fine dining steakhouse where I got to see you do it,
Yeah, no, that is fair. And I'm with you. So I guess to wrap up, the 4th option is from the entry-level resorts at MGM Resorts, specifically the Excalibur and the Luxor, which is available only on 2-night stays. What it includes is 2 nights accommodate, or rather, the resort fees are included, although not taxes and tips. John, am I reading this right? The the base room charge is also included?
Yeah. So the room, this is everything. So at that $165 a night, and this is for 2 people.
Huh.
So,
all right.
So it's not a bad deal, but you got to do
so 100. 165
minimum and maximum. Sorry, my bad.
So $165 a night for 2 people, including your room and your resort fee. That's actually a phenomenal deal. That might actually get me back to the Luxor. 3 meal vouchers per day for 2 at 10 of their dining locations, including at least a few alcohol options. 2 show tickets at select shows, irrelevant to me. I'm in 2 passes for the roller coaster. So, John, and at that price, that actually makes it interesting to me. So let's do what you were proposing earlier with Resorts World. Talk to me about what the more and less intriguing options on this list are for you.
So for me, we're just going to think about the 3 strip options because let's be real. The Plaza is a good deal if you want to be downtown and if you want lower end dining. If that's what you want, cheap eats, cheap booze, nice place to stay downtown, Plaza is a heck of a deal if what you want is a downtown trip. Let's put that in its own category and look at the 3 strip places: Resorts World, the Caesars Options, and MGM. I feel like of the 3, and this is baller on a budget point of view talking, and you may feel differently because it's not high end enough. But if you're trying to get a taste of high end at a price you can wrap your head around, I think Resorts World offers something really unique. It's a chance for people who normally could not afford to stay at the Conrad, would not make that choice normally, could not get access to Club 66 normally, are not eating prefix 3-course menus normally. This is a chance for people who are like, they listen to fancy like Applebee's unironically. If that is you, if you were blue collar, if you grew up on the struggle, if you know what a boil and bag is and ever had to eat it 4 nights a week, if you've ever sold plasma to pay the bills, Resorts World is a chance to experience the finer things for less. It may not be bougie enough to make it worthwhile for somebody that's done those things a lot, but if you normally don't do the nicer things, that Resorts World deal, man, Bill, I'm telling you, that's a chance.
So I see your point, particularly because it's not the entry-level Hilton, which is still perfectly nice. It's the Conrad, which is a little more upscale. So I see your point. My base reaction of those 3, because, again, we talked about the Plaza before, and you're right, it's kind of in its own category. But of the 3, my base reaction is that what is clearly the worst deal is the one at Caesars, because I'm usually the only person in my room, which means I am paying $200 a night extra for not getting a whole lot of value. So I think rather than starting with what my favorite is, I know actually of all 4 on the list, including the Plaza, Caesars is overwhelmingly my least favorite, because if you got 2 people, that takes it down to a little bit to $150 a person, but still not worth it. Given that I'd be paying $200 for 1 person per night, hard pass, man. I am out. So do you agree with that point, or are you going somewhere else on what
No,
clearly
no,
works?
I completely agree. I completely agree. I think Caesars is the worst deal on the list. It doesn't give me anything. The things that it throws in are things I don't want.
Right. Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
is, yeah, I absolutely see your point. So, what is your take on the MGM Resorts offer at Excalibur and Luxor?
So it's a really good deal. Lori and I actually talked about doing that deal. We like the shows. You could get Blue Man Group, which is it's a perfectly fun show. Is it groundbreaking? No. Will you remember everything about the show an hour later? No. But will you be entertained for 90 minutes? Yes, you will. So, we talked about going and doing that particular show again. I think it's the Michael Jackson Experience is in there. And then they have a couple of adult options if you're into that sort of thing. Fantasy if you want to see the ladies, Thunder Down Under if you want to see the men. My wife and I had no interest in either of those shows, but we would go see Blue Man Group again. It's a fine show. And the dining options were nothing spectacular, but given that they throw in a beer or a glass of wine with it, really pretty good deals. And if we were going to keep ourselves in that part of the strip, I could see doing that trip and having a lot of fun. I just think I spend a little bit more and get my pinky in the air a little. I wonder for you if you'd rather slum it because the pinky's not high enough in the air. And if you're trying to budget anyway, you might as well budget all the way and just have fun living on that lower end of the hog.
So, I think you may actually be right. And to be clear, I am staying at the Luxor and not at the Dirty Castle for this one. But what are resort fees at Luxor now? Like 40 or $50 a night?
I believe 45, and they're going to waive that. And you can upgrade. Yeah, and you can upgrade to a tower room too for reasonable money.
Right, but that's part of the point. So if $165 includes the resort fees, then if quite frequently the room rate is going to be north of $120 anyway, which means it may just straight up save you money.
Yeah.
Right. And you'd obviously want to check on what the rates were your particular night. But I can see some scenarios where it's just straight up cheaper to book this way. And then, the shows and the roller coaster aren't appealing to me, but the meals, maybe not. But if I've already saved money and then, I go get a cheap breakfast or something out of the deal, then great. Now, to be clear, the Resorts World offer is interesting. It's just a closer call. Like some of the stuff at Resorts World's not interesting to me. I am too old to go to the nightclub, and I'm not driving my own car, so the valet parking is meaningless. I would be interested if it was a one-night offer, but at 2 nights, particularly since you're probably really only eating one of your 2 lunches there, depending on how your travel schedule works. I don't know. It's a close call. I would love to go into the Club 66 VIP lounge, though. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah. I will say, if any of our listeners want to see what this looks like, Travel Ruby and her husband did a video on the MGM option, and Norma Yelly did a video on the Resorts World. So you can actually see what this is like. Of course, they're influencers on YouTube, whether or not their videos sway you. But you can get a look at what the dining options are, what it looks like, and how they felt about it to help you make a decision. But yeah, I think we both agree, skip the Caesars offer. The value's just not there.
Yeah, and the Plaza offer, I could go either way. It would just kind of depend on if we were going, on a trip to Fremont, man, it'd be a coin flip at the time I was booking.
No, I can see that. I think you do the Plaza if what you want is a downtown trip. I will say, if I did not have a resort credit to use up because of my credit card, I would be jumping on the Plaza one. Of the 4, that's the one that speaks to my little white trash soul the most. I just like downtown. I like that kind of stuff. I like the places in the Plaza. I dig it. So I would do that of the 4, but if I didn't want to be downtown, I think I'd do Resorts World.
You speak truth, brother. Well, is it time to wrap things up?
I think it is mostly because if I sit here any longer, I'm going to drink more mezcal. If I drink more mezcal, work tomorrow is going to be rough. And I've already annoyed you because I tend to overtalk when I have mezcal, and that's a bad habit. So, listeners, if you heard Bill get perceptibly pissed because I talked over him, you're right. And I apologize to my friend and my brother on air live as part of the podcast. Bill, I'm going to shut up now. Why don't you tell the listeners where to get more Dine Drink Travel and Dine Drink Vegas content?
Well, listeners, the most important thing you can do is to support this podcast where you can hear me and John go back and forth and back and forth. And the way you can do that, hit whatever the subscribe or notification system is wherever you listen to podcasts. Hit like, make a comment, share it with your friends, do those things because we love the audience that we are very quickly growing, and we would love for you and your friends to be part of it. It's not the only place we are, though. You can also find us on YouTube at Dine Drink Vegas, which I may have mentioned 4 or 5 or 20 times during this episode, where I bring you short and focused videos which help you plan your next trip. Things like 5 or 10 minutes on a particular hotel room or a particular restaurant. I'm increasingly putting more content on Dine Drink Travel because it's a little bit broader spectrum. It includes things like the executive lounges in the Las Vegas airport, some of the cruises John and I have taken before with our families, or all of my trips to Ireland where it turns out they've got pubs. You can also find me on essentially every social media platform at Dine Drink Travel. I would love to interact with you there. Probably the most important of those, though, is X, because that's where you can find John.
I'm at Dine Drink John. We're recording this on Wednesday, the night before the NFL draft. By the time this drops, you can join me on X to hear my epic meltdown for when the Jones boys inevitably screw up the 2026 NFL draft and break the heart of Cowboys fans everywhere. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us. We're so glad you did. Please share our podcast with your friends, whatever social media platforms you're on. Retweet, repost, whatever. Give it to that friend that's planning a trip to Vegas or that enemy that hates listening to old fat white Southern guys drink and talk. Either way, you're helping us grow an audience so we can keep bringing you this content. Thank you so much for listening. Until the next episode, happy travels. All right. I hope you're recording now so we can start this because I don't want to hear any more about anything going into any holes that doctors like to poke around in that I don't want poked. Are we ready?
Yes.
All right.
And that is going on the end of the show.
Oh, my God. All right. Here we go. 5, 4,